Hey, welcome back to Monkey Business Off-Road. I'm Nick, aka Dad.
I'm Addie, aka the Monkey. So last week you showed them the Harbor Freight powder coat gun, and this week I saw you got a new package in the mail. So what'd you get?
Yeah, I did. I showed everyone my first attempt at learning how to powder coat, and I went the budget route, obviously. I think as all of us DIYers that have never done anything like that before would do, to see if you're any good at it, or to see if doing it is any fun, you know. So I went the cheap route, and yeah, I had my Harbor Freight powder coating system, and showed you kind of what I'd found out by watching some YouTube videos. Prep is still very important. Ground is extremely important. And then making sure you have your pressures right. You don't want to be blowing off the powder and things like that. So yeah, I talked about some things that I picked up some tips along the way from watching some YouTube channels and posted those links above. But yeah, I did. I wanted to up my game just a little bit. I've had some fun trying different powders and multiple processes of 2 base coats and a clear, and just clearing some just straight metal. But yeah, I did. I got a package in the mail today. Monk saw me grab it from the mailman, and let me show you what I got. Well, Monk's right. I did get a package today, and this is what I got. I got a package from Eastwood. I'd ordered the PCS 250, and the reason I went with this is it's actually a dual voltage. So you have a high and low voltage system. Shows you right here, a 15 kV for standard powder jobs, and then you can switch it to 25 kV for larger jobs or doing a second coat application. I've actually heard from some people on YouTube that are using this, even professional powder coaters, that you might want to start with the 15 kV on the second coat and then the 25 kV for the first coat. But you know what, we'll try it, and we'll try it like they say here first, and then we'll go from there. But let's open this up, and I'll show you what you get from Eastwood on their PCS 250 dual voltage powder coating system. All right, we'll open this up, see what we get here. All right, so we've got our silica. We'll get that out of the way. All right, so we've got our gun here. I do like that they have this bottle that is mounted to the bottom. Makes it so much easier than the Harbor Freight one where you've got to kind of invert this and then put it on. I did like that, and they make this bottle just as a standalone to where you can put just all your powders in them. They are a little bit more of an opaque look, so you can't see through them, but I like that. Other thing I did notice is it does not have a regulator like the one from Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight had that little brass piece, so I will be able to use an external one. Okay, so one thing you won't get is this pressure regulator. I've already attached mine. This one I got from Harbor Freight. Had to get an end for it because it's just the regulator itself, so you need to get your fitting for the end to connect to your power or your air source, whatever that may be, a large compressor or even small. But you don't want to run this more than, it says, anywhere from 5 to 10 PSI if I remember right. So you want to be able to do that. Everything else in the box was pretty similar to what we had in Harbor Freight. You've got your control box. The cool thing about this one is, though, is that it does have a low voltage and high voltage. You've got your power cord, the cord that goes to the gun. You also have your ground, which is this green wire, and has a little bit different style of a clip. It's more of like a large clamp type crimp, and so it should give you a little bit better ground. And the other thing is you have, instead of having the pedal like we had on the other one, you've actually got a button, so you can hold this in your left or right hand, whichever one you're not using to use the gun with, and then press to start spraying your powder. So I guess the next thing is set it up, and we'll see what it does. All right, so I showed you the gun that you get from Eastwood. Now there are some pretty big differences, maybe in the favor of the Harbor Freight powder coating system. One is you don't get a regulator, which we've added this one, which I talked about in the previous little segment, and you don't get an air dryer. Now you get this from Harbor Freight as well. I just went to Harbor Freight and picked this one up. It's a Merlin, just disposable kind. But the one from Harbor Freight on the powder coating system that we talked about previously, it was pretty cheap. It's just all plastic housing. You can't tighten it down too much. I was getting an air leak out of mine and started to tighten it down, and it snapped the female fitting. So I tried to glue it using some Gorilla Glue, let it cure for about 24 to 36 hours, and it couldn't hold the pressure. It popped again. So I got another one like this for it. Another thing I did add after watching one of the powder coaters I watched, since I am not a professional, we added this light. Just use some zip ties, cheap little $2.99 for a 2-pack from Harbor Freight. The reason I added it was using the Harbor Freight gun, I was laying down some white powder for a friend, and it was really hard to tell on stainless steel how much powder was on there if I was actually really coating it. I did have a lot of good light, obviously, out in the garage. But yeah, I saw him, he had added to his guns a little $1.99 type of little flashlight here. So we've got it zip tied to it. So hopefully I'll be able to see a little bit better. But so far, we'll see how it goes. Just those couple little things, and the Harbor Freight gun being cheaper, is kind of in its favor right now. One of the other things I do like about the Eastwood is that you've got these canisters, mounts on the bottom, a little bit easier, like I talked about, to mount it and not spill powder everywhere. But the cool thing is they sell these at Eastwood. You can get like a 3-pack for like $6.99, whereas the ones with the Harbor Freight gun, I can't find them on Harbor Freight. I went to Amazon and found them, but for like 2 of them, they want like $38. So I was like, no, when I can get this gun. So if this gun lays down powder really well, I think to me it's a little bit ahead, even though I had to purchase, you know, the moisture canister and then the regulator itself. Not a big deal to me, you know, especially going to Harbor Freight, but we'll see how the powder lays down and we'll go from there. All right, now, one thing I'm doing differently here is I am using the rack out of the little toaster oven. I've actually sanded down where some of the powder has kind of accumulated to give myself hopefully a little bit better ground. I was getting some, I guess, orange peel, but also had some dimples in the back that I had talked about in the previous video. Watching some of the other guys talk about it, could be, you know, not a good enough ground. So really went back to scrape this down to make sure I had really good contact. Their big clip that they have on the Eastwood gun might make it a little bit difficult to get a good ground just because of how big it is and you can't really turn it sideways. So we're gonna give this thing a shot here, see if I can clip it on here pretty well, and hopefully get a good ground, and we'll see if this lays down really well. Starting with the silver color, see what happens. Here we go. And then one last thing, just before I start laying this down, we are gonna start on the lower voltage first. Just makes more sense to me that I've got good clean metal here and there's nothing on it. And it makes sense that at the second coat we do that we should up the voltage just to get it to adhere better. So we'll see what happens, but just wanted to give you that quick note. Well, as you can see when I was shooting powder, I got to be careful that when I pull the trigger, even lightly, it just kind of pops out. So I've been aiming down so I don't just blow powder all over it. But it really laid down pretty evenly. I went over a couple times because I do have the pressure put down quite a bit. Want to make sure it stuck really well and that I got good coat on it. But a light coat still, but I want to make sure all of it got coated. Seems like the ground really did well. I've got really good cover, and we'll put it in the oven here. We'll let it, flash here and just get a little bit gel, and then we'll come back and do another coat on the higher voltage. Well, with this, I think it's Arsine Silver from Prismatic. Watching it, it's not really like the other colors that I've worked with. Probably because it doesn't have as much metallic in it. It's more of just a kind of just a grayish silver color. And it's not really getting that gel look to it or real clear finish to it. More of a matte finish. So I stopped where I was at. It reached around 360 degrees, and that was only took a few minutes for it to get up to that point. So I decided I'll just stop here, let it cool down, and we'll put a second coat on it and see how it goes after that. All right, so I've pulled it out of the oven, let it cool. Thermometer says we're right around 74, 75 degrees. We're gonna now switch this down, or switch it up to the high voltage setting, which is just one button. Flip it from 1 to 2 basically. And once we press the button, we'll get a little bit stronger current, which I figure will be better since we already have a coating on it. So let's get to spraying. All right, well, we've got it out of the oven. It's sitting around just around 68 degrees. So it's nice and cooled off with the second coat, and it went on really evenly. So yeah, like I said, went on pretty evenly, looks really nice. I think I've had people say, well, does it have orange peel on it? Actually, I think it's just because it's bare metal. I've got some, you got those little ridges and valleys in a piece of metal sometimes. It's not super flat. But I thought it looked really good, especially using this powder coat gun for the first time. So let's get this clear coat on and we'll get it baked and see what it looks like. All right, well, everything went on great with the clear. You saw I was just really kind of doing a dusting, and with it being on the high voltage for the clear, it really was clinging to it really well. Got a good spread across it. It looked really nice. Hoping that it comes out really well as well. But yeah, we'll get this out, and then I'll give you my final thoughts on what I think about the Eastwood dual voltage powder coating system versus Harbor Freight. Some of the things I may repeat again, and some of the things we did that really made it a little bit easier this time, not necessarily because of the Eastwood gun, but just some of the things we did that made it easier. So we'll wait here until this gets up to temp, cook it for 18 minutes once it reaches 375, and then let it cool down. So see you in a little bit. All right, well, we've got it out of the oven. It was in there at 375 for 18 minutes. Kept checking it because this time I wanted to do it as best I could. So was messing with the temperature on my oven, just trying to keep that thermometer as close to 375 as I could. And yeah, it ranged anywhere from 380 to 368. So yeah, as soon as it hit though 375, I had started my clock on my phone just to be sure. But yeah, here it is. Let me move out of the way here. You can see it's got some glossiness to it, especially with that clear coat. This side looks really good. Now, this side, I don't know if the camera will be able to pick it up. You can see those dimples in that there. Got a few more down in here. There's the light kind of catching it. And then also got a little bit of red down here. And what happened was, as I was rotating it to get the backside a little bit better, it fell off the grating and basically just plopped right down into some old powder. So I tried to dust it off as best I could, because it was out of the oven after the first coat. It was the second coat that did it. So I've got some weird little what looks like almost topographic map on it. So I'm assuming that is just the extra powder that got stuck there, and I didn't wipe it off before applying that second coat. And now it's stuck in there, but that's okay. So yeah, what did I like about the Eastwood versus the Harbor Freight? The Harbor Freight had some cool things with it already, which, I didn't know about, but like the air dryer, the ability to adjust the pressure, which isn't great on that gun from Harbor Freight. I mean, you can turn it all the way down and it closes it off, obviously, but to keep the pressure just where you want it, it's not great. I definitely like that the tank on the Eastwood is on the bottom. So much easier to not have to flip the gun upside down, and that you can get those containers from Eastwood and just keep your powders in it, which I really like. I bought 6 of them, plus you get one with the powder coating system. So I've got 7 total, and I've got, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 powders. So I've got a bottle for each one, and I just took a Sharpie marker and wrote on the bottle exactly what it is, so you're not guessing. Especially the clear vision is white, and I also have a dirty white for a friend of mine. You can't tell, we almost can't tell the difference between the two. So it's great with that. Obviously the Eastwood gun did not have obviously the air dryer or the regulator, but I think the ones I put on there are better than what the Harbor Freight one was. And it's nice that it's got the dual voltage, the high and the low. I really felt like with the pressure, I was able to turn it down enough and just kind of mist it on there. Got a good ground that second time. And I'm interested to try the Harbor Freight gun again and play around with it. But I really think that Eastwood right now is on sale too. That's the other reason I bought it. I mean, it was about $50 more, but it seems like it is a really nice gun. I took the diffuser or whatever you want to call it off the end of it because it was such a smaller area that I was going for. But yeah, really liked it. And I think I got really good results, being the very first time. If I hadn't have dropped the thing, I do need to come up with a better system of spraying, because in this box, it catches the powder, but I'm not going to be able to keep the powder. I mean, I've come to that realization. You're mixing the powders up, so it doesn't even matter at this point. But no, I would definitely recommend the Eastwood dual volt, that 250 dual volt, going on the low setting for the first coat, and then high setting seemed to work out really well. We will continue to keep using it and make videos about how we're doing with it. But yeah, that's where I'm at with that. Some of the add-ons I was talking about, I wanted to get over, was using that flashlight. Let me grab this real quick. Yeah, adding a flashlight to the gun, especially when you're using those lighter powders with some of these metals that are a lot lighter, like the white, which was just a bear to even see in the garage lighting. So that was a really cool idea. I'm glad I watched that video on that. And then just making sure, again, playing with those pressures, adding those regulators to it made it a lot easier. So appreciate you watching as always. Hopefully this has been informative, and definitely go out and give it a shot. If, again, after my first video with the Harbor Freight one, if you're still kind of on the fence, can I do it or not? I've never done this. I am not a powder coater. I've only watched videos on YouTube. So give it a shot. It's pretty fun. And you know what? You could make a business out of this just doing small parts out of your garage. So thanks again for watching. Have a blessed day.